Welcome to Debt to Cinema. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Steven Maltmanex.
Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching the latest releases. However, sadly, put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we miss, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
Hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the other's opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
I am not a bum. I'm a jerk. I once had wealth, power, and the love of a beautiful woman. Now, I only have two things. My friends and my thermos. Huh? My story? Okay. It was never easy for me. I was born a poor black child. I remember the days sitting on the porch with my family, singing and dancing down in Mississippi.
So welcome to Comedy 101. We've done a bit, you know.
Was that intentional right off the bat?
Sort of, yeah. Well, not
just
really,
that on the
but
fly.
It's one of those movies that I bought, you know, for a reason, to show it to someone. And one of the great things when you have someone in your life, I mean, everyone dreams about having kids and showing someone a movie for the first time. But a significant other is also kind of nice. And, you know, as a tastemaker, it happens to be coincidence that there's an episode of Freaks and Geeks where Sam Weir is told by Martin Starr's character, among others, to break up with the girl that he's seen because she doesn't like the jerk, that she didn't laugh when they went and saw it in theaters. And I said that right before I sat down and asked you. I said, if you don't laugh, I'm breaking up with you. And she, you know, she might have smirked a couple times. She might have thought it was somewhat humorous. She might have fell asleep towards the end anyway, but what about you? Did this get a smile from you, or was
it a biodome, or was it a
exactly?
Yeah, was it a Freddy Got Fingered? Yeah, no, I laughed. I did like the movie. That's where I really struggle here. Is I have to think about how to justify what it is specifically, going back to those two movies, that really just irks me about them. And
because it's the same kind of humor.
Yeah, it's stupid funny. It's very gag driven, and there is something to it here where it's like, it's as a whole it works and it's fun, but first off, it's definitely not obnoxious and just irritating on the ears, which may sound like an old person complaint, but that's what Tom Green does to me. When he's fucking, I don't know, is he singing Havana Glia Hava or during the birth scene, or what? There were like some Hare Krishnas like on the tambourine. It was just like, I don't know, his fucking screaming, or the horse cock thing. Oh my god! Like how do I justify
big ones?
How do I justify that?
$250.
That's the thing. When I'm laughing at Steve Martin in the hotel, communicating with the barking dog, going, "Oh my God, you're a miracle dog. That's what I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you a miracle dog. You're a lifesaver.
Lifesaver.
Yeah, you're going to get your picture taken in the paper." Why is it that that's funny to me, and yet Tom Green just makes me want to fucking bash my brains in when he's going, "Daddy, would you like some sausage?"
By the way, my last pick on the show, I said my new name for my cat was Money. He's on my lap, purring real loud. Let's see if I can get that on mic.
It's going to be Shithead?
It's Shithead. I've already actually called him Shithead multiple times. Buddy's a go-to also.
I lost it, but I saw a tidbit where for the TV version, obviously they couldn't say shithead, so I think it was changed to stupid.
That's horrible.
Well, that's funny. Just, TV versions in general. But comedy, especially when it's gag-driven, It's interesting when it's in long form. I think it's more risky because, in the case of Freddy Got Fingered, I will say this, is that there was a screening way back when that I considered going back to and revisiting because there were spots for it. And when they did a short, 5-second clip of that sausage bit, I chuckled with the way that it was presented. So, there is something to it, I think, with that example where, hey, if I get it in small doses, it can be funny. But if it's a full movie, then I'm engaging with it on a different level where, maybe it just doesn't work that way. Maybe a snippet is all I need. But I don't know, with this, I think it's also there are things just weird little touches throughout that lend more to the world building, but I think other movies were treated as a joke. Like when Navid goes out of the house for the first time, when he's about to go on the road, he's dressed in World War II fighter pilot gear, which really is not really a dress, is not explained, but for other movies, I feel like they would treat that as oh, that's the joke, and this character is stupid. Whereas,
if you just back up that, as soon as you meet the character, just the way that he can't find rhythm, they don't even mention that. It's not even a running gag. And then when you get later into it, it's the inciting incident. It's the hero's journey starts because he finally found a song that spoke to him, that he could snap along to and tap his foot to the melody, instead of the song of the people that raised him. These slave songs. He's in the South. He's a Southern black child. The first line in the movie is, I was born, well, after he talks to the camera and gets you in, I was born a poor black child. And the rest of the film, you believe that.
One of my favorite lines is probably coming from the mother when she sincerely comes to him and is like, what's wrong? Feeling different again?
Oh, it's your birthday.
Of course this has been an issue before. It's not it's suddenly a big shock. He's just spending his whole life growing up wondering, one day I'm going to change color. It's
going back to the long gag thing that you're talking about, and Freddy Got Fingered is short and this one isn't, and just the way they make the humor work, that is the gamble that the film is. This is, Steve Martin's first real film. At this time, he was the biggest stand-up comedian in the world.
Yeah.
Selling platinum recording stand-up albums, multiple. He had gags the Wild and Crazy Guys gag that was on SNL and on TV. He was huge. And you have Carl Reiner, who worked on the Dick Van Dyke Show, worked on a lot of TV, comedy writer, the dad of Rob Reiner. But they wrote this script along with, what's his name? It's Carl Gottlieb. He plays Iron Balls McGinty in this film, the guy that Naven breaks his feet on when he goes kung fu mode.
Also the writer of Jaws.
Really?
Gottlieb, yeah.
Well, the guy that adapted Jaws?
The guy that wrote the script, yeah. But
anyway, they started this film by trying to adapt, his stand-up bits, excuse me, the actual gags, a guy walking around with, a fucking harrow through his head, but it's obviously a gimmick, or wearing the bunny suit, his album art. And by happenstance, I was flipping through the bonus features on my DVD. I think I read this story before, maybe on the internet or whatever, but in the bonus features, production notes, there's a gas shortage that happened during production
in the 70s,
probably 78. And coincidentally, they put him in as a full service gas attendant in the beginning of the film. But because of that, Carl Reiner and Steve Martin would carpool to the studio together, and they would work out these jokes and these gags and rewrite the script so many times, over and over and over, to the point where, it kind of created the modern comedy, even if it borrows heavily, mind you, in the gas station sequence, wait, hold up, I got this gag, I'm gonna get them, and then he does the American Graffiti move on their lowrider. It's the only thing that this film really doesn't do is incorporate music, which is interesting. If it had a hip soundtrack, it probably, even though it was one of the biggest films of this year, 1979, you have the 2001 riffs that happen 2 or 3 times in the film.
Which is more a sound-alike, if anything. It's not the actual theme for it.
Oh, yeah, because this is universal.
So, I don't think this movie had the budget for that. Even for American Graffiti, that's practically where all the money went, was for the songs.
All the money.
At the time, we were still easing our way into that kind of soundtrack being compiled for a feature. if it wasn't
But
written
you
for the movie.
do get the beautiful Bernadette Peters, Steve Martin ukulele moment, which
everyone loves that
be-
moment.
might be the strongest scene in the film, especially because it shows, like, it stripes that it's not just this over-the-top comedy.
Like, it's a fine scene. It's sweet. I don't know. Like, I read that up later on how people reacted to it, where people are like, "Oh man, it's so good." And I'm just, it's like, yeah, it's good. Like, if this wasn't for an Oscar race and people were like, "That's the best song of the year," I'd be like, "Yeah, sure." But I mean, I don't know. It's not worth being a party pooper over. So sorry.
You got to remember, though, that she's actually playing trumpet. He's actually playing that ukulele. This is
Yeah.
Steve Martin. He's a Grammy-winning banjo player. He's a pianist. Like,
Yeah.
he's an actual musician. He's not just this actor, this stand-up comedian, or this author, or this director. He's a man of many hats, and, famous Twitter handle, author, tweeter, whatever you want to call it.
Well, but moments like that also for the film really help it from being just a little bit more than just a gag fest, which, this practically is. You know,
all the little stuff, like the man and his dog plot lines, the hero's journey that he's going on, the family angle, like the callbacks to them, having the cutaways, Carl Reiner's cameo as himself that, like, starts off a whole nother act that you never see coming, which is just ridiculous, like sending out these $1.09 checks to everyone. And they worked together. Like, this was not just because it was a hit, but because they found this chemistry, maybe through the carpool situation or making this or God knows what. But, they made this. A couple years later, they made Dead Man Don't Wear Plaid, which is like a film noir, like, riff. A couple years after that, early 80s, The Man with Two Brains, which they actually played at the New Bev, and I saw a trailer for, and I kind of want to see, but I've seen it so many times. I was like, I don't know about that. And then right after that, he did All of Me, which is, once again, also Steve Martin. And it's like a body swap movie, which I found, luckily, at the Goodwill, one of the last times I went recently. And these are 4 just films that I kind of grew up on. Maybe not Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. That one I tried in college. I couldn't. I'll pick it up another time. I think it's because I'm so unfamiliar with the genre still. I've only seen so many noir films that it's hard to make me laugh at something that I don't know the origin joke for, maybe. Or maybe the humor is just not mine.
it's a movie I've not seen, but I mean, you straight up saying noir, it's interesting because, like, this movie kind of sets, I guess, the style of what I would say are just, for the string of comedies that came out in the 80s are more parodies, if anything. Like,
yeah,
they have a very, very thin plot, but, they're usually playing with tropes that we're familiar with. Just
Airplane type.
I don't know, maybe this is more of like a parody of a rags to riches story, but, and, they're sort of playing
rags
with,
to
like,
riches to rags.
common cliche scenes of, the family is at the dinner table and there's an empty chair, and they put away the chair, like, take off the placemat, it's too depressing, and then they, like, just sets it on the table, like, almost like he's dead, and then later the joke, which you kind of see it coming now if you're familiar enough with it, but it's just like, oh, I wonder how he's doing. Hey Nathan, how's it going out there? It's like, oh, just fine. I see a truck coming. Like, it's still a nice little joke. Although the one that came after that was really funny, where the hitchhiker just picks, the driver picks him up. It's like, how far are you going? Oh, just the end of this fence. Well, okay. I'm Nathan. How are you? Here we are. Oh, thank you so much.
He has this happy-go-lucky attitude about him.
Yeah.
Like, he's such a schmo that you're not even laughing at him half the time.
He's stupid, but you really he's so optimistic that he's not an annoying little shit that you just find it difficult to watch. It's like,
even when he's the obnoxious rich dude who's just going through money, kind of created like the rapper lifestyle. If you think about the gold chains, the Gucci flip flops, the 3 swimming pools, like dedicated.
I love
dance
how
floor,
the voiceover, like, just when he's like saying it sincerely, like, remember, Pa, when you were talking about how
I wanted
these
the all red
ridiculous
room
things
with the
yeah,
stuffed
like,
camel. I wanted a bathtub in the shape like a clam.
It's like, remember time
how I
when
wanted
we talked
that
about
pink
that?
chiffon? And that he actually talked about these things, and he gets all this money with his, just the evolution of dirtbaggery. When he shows, first it's the car with the hat and the painting, and then it's the maid and the butler that are living with him. This is such a buy for me. Like I said, I own this one. I had to buy this one. It's the 26th anniversary edition, which just makes it even more of a jerky film. There's a Jerk 2 also, which is unrelated, kind of like Teen Wolf 2, I believe. One of those never watch it, kind of cash-in type things. This this film has so many pieces for me. Not just the comedy, not just the acting or the writing or the directing or the little gags or the whatevers, not the music, but Bernadette Peters, who's not really, if you check her filmography, she's not in anything. She's a Broadway actress. She still does plays, but she's never really done movies. Like, she's the original run cast for Into the Woods, you know, that Johnny Depp musical that Disney failed with, which wasn't too bad. She began that on Broadway, among other things, and like, she's still acting. She's in varied things, but she's not in anything big, and this is by far her big thing. But I had that gag, the comedy 101, I got these reasons why it's a buy, but the real one, and I hope you knew this already, but the real one coming on the 1-year anniversary of the show, or 2 years, or 101 episode, whatever you want to call it, this is a Long Beach alum film. Steve Martin
is sort of, I mean, he transferred to UCLA, so
who cares?
He left us, man. He abandoned
Steven
us.
Spielberg dropped out, came back, and then never even went to class and got his diploma. What difference does it make?
He's not an alum, but he did go there.
A fun little fact, he was probably only 10 years out of going to our alma mater when he was making this film, which is fun,
The Jerk, man. Dude, I mean, it's funny. Like, for me, it's more of a silver dollar, but I think it's just interesting, like, how you gauge stupid funny. But I think really, like, the gags here, I think the reason why they work for the most part is you're never a step ahead of how it's going to end up exactly. Like, there is anticipation, that gag at the gas station that, okay, things are going to go around. He's doing the American Graffiti bit where he's tying up the back of the car, and you're
don't expect the church.
Yeah, you do not expect that. You see that building's there. You don't expect it to be a church, and you do not expect it to be a wedding that's happening. And the car just keeps dragging it, like, slowly as they're getting away. It's not like they run out to stop it. And just that image of Steve Martin watching it, like, out the window and just going like, I can't see the license plate, but if you see one going down the road carrying a church, a blue Chevy, 2-door Chevy, that it's a good bet that might be the one. And it's just that delivery, and I mean that in like so many other jokes where you're not a step ahead of knowing what the joke is. So random humor does, I guess, work up. There's still a punchline there, and I don't know. I think that's a big reason of why it still plays today. Is you're just anticipating it, like wondering where the hell it's going to go, and that's something that seems to be missing, because it's like, there's no, it's not about the shock value in this all the time. It's not trying too hard to throw something in your face. I think that's probably why that's the easiest thing I could say of why I like this and not Freddy Got Fingered. Is Freddy Got Fingered is literally throwing random shit at me during the birth giving scene, and I'm just kind of like, come on, man. But yeah, this, it takes its time, and it's funny the way it builds it up, and yeah, it's a classic for a reason. But yeah, what, silver dollar, man. I don't know, maybe because I don't have the nostalgia value there, but like, I definitely enjoyed the movie. I see the value in it. Hopefully, like, next time I see it, I'm with a crowd, though, because I'm sure that'll be fun.
The thing that separates a good movie from a great movie isn't if it's perfect, because this film is far from it.
No.
Both of their first films, probably Bernadette Peters' first film also, or one of them, and yet, it has these funny gags that work, but what really sells it is you have these moments that are just made poorly, like the train chase sequence in particular, the way that's sped up with the ADR, and it's like, that wasn't supposed to play how poorly it does. Like, they thought that was going to be a funny joke. And it works the way it's set up, where it starts on the train and it pulls out, and then you realize this is not just a miniature, but one that someone is actually sitting on, Yeah. And that whole sequence just kind of falls on its face, but it doesn't matter.
It's kind of an amusing moment, but it's like, that's not the joke, because there's other stuff that's happening there for you to fixate on.
The meet cute is what matters in that sequence. The way they look at each other when she puts on the glasses. In the same way that fucking the disco scene, how goofy that is. When he's talking, Carl Reiner's talking about when to call cut, and the car goes off and crashes and blows up. Juggling cats is actually the part of the
juggling
film,
cat thing. I'm just kind of like, well, I guess that's funny. I don't know.
That is my favorite part of the film. Like the duet is great.
I was just kind of like, okay, I know you love cats. Like, the juggling cat thing. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I don't know, it's supposed to be funny, I guess, that he's reacting to something so ridiculous. My favorite joke, though, in the whole thing is the shit Shinola moment.
Right?
Yeah, just, that was great.
Ashley didn't laugh at that.
What?
And I looked at her, I'm like, you get it, right? And she's like, what? I'm like, the saying? She's like, yeah, I got it. I was like, okay.
Damn, man, maybe you do have to rethink it. But
no.
It's funny how it sort of sets things up, especially at the beginning, or at least what I felt would have been a setup when they say, you know, like right as he's about to leave, it's like, work hard, God loves a working man, don't trust Whitey, and if you get it, if you catch it, go see a doctor. You know, like usually for a moment like that where someone's leaving home, and like it feels like you would have moments that like kind of build up to that, and then they would call back to it. But no, that's like the one time that you hear it. You know, it's never. It's a small joke too, and there's other stuff that happens, so it really never does go down the line that you think it's going to go, even if that's what it's setting up. The only thing that you do know is that whatever happens, he's going to end up on the street, and he's going to get wealth and riches and fame, because that's what he says at the beginning. But yeah, you don't know how you're going to get there, and the unpredictability of it like makes it a fun watch.
The reason this is a buy, like probably the main reason for me, besides the nostalgia, the humor, and like Steve Martin playing like a role in my personal comedy and all kinds of different things, is that like when it comes down to it, it's an extreme adventure. It's 90 minutes, and the journey that you go on with this guy is insane. Like literally going from this poor black kid to hitchhiker to like
getting shot at by
being a bathroom attendant, pretty much in a gas station, and then getting shot at, inventing the glasses, like getting rich, like the whole rich thing, like just everything, the way he gets poor, like how that process works, and then how like the rushed happy ending too, like everything about it, like it's very long. This is like a fucking Jonathan Swift level like story, like some kind of Twain-esque adventure type thing, like Huck Finn story going on. And you also have these like gags throughout that are happening like a mile a minute. Sometimes you're going to miss them because they're so fast. Sometimes you have to wait 10 minutes for one, and it's worth it. But it's just this sense of almost not enlightenment, but like you can tell that they made this for a specific reason. They wanted you to go to a theater, pay your whatever the price of admission was back then, probably $4.50, and then just enjoy life for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then you could talk about it whenever and go, remember the time when we saw The Jerk and we stopped, like we couldn't stop laughing because he was driving that church down the street, and you're fucking cracking up thinking about the image in your head of you having a good time watching a good movie.
I mean, maybe I'm so jaded by ratings now, but can you think of any real reason for this to be justified for an R rating aside from maybe language? Because I mean, I don't know. It
might be the sex stuff.
I don't know. If they cut that a little bit, I mean, I didn't think that was like that bad. I felt like, you know, hey, it could have been cut for a PG, and kids would have seen this and like grown up with it, fucking loved it, quoted it endlessly. You know, like I know a ton of people that grew up with this on VHS. That's fittingly for me. That's how I watched it. Which, you know, I think it works as that kind of movie. That, you know, people watch over and over again, so much so that the tape I had was freaking worn out. So yeah, I kind of had a bit of a charm from the past going for me. But comedy's a weird thing to tackle when reviewing it. But, you know, the main thing is that if the people are laughing when they watch it, then that's the main thing that you need. You know, it's the toughest thing to achieve because you never know if someone's going to laugh. But hey, if people laugh at what you do, then as far as I'm concerned, you're succeeding.
Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can listen to more by checking out the Dollar Reviews Show, where we cover theatrical and streaming releases, as well as give our 2 cents on anything we sought out on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
And we're also on Google Play Music, iTunes, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just about anywhere on the internet with hours of content available to you for free. But for those of you that feel that the show is worth your dollar, you can send us a donation at patreon.com/dollarreviews. Contributions not only earn our undying love, but they also make it possible for us to improve our recording equipment and to give you the highest quality episodes possible. But more importantly, they'd be helping us acquire the content to review. You know, trips to the multiplex are expensive, and the more donations we receive, the more films we can review for your listening pleasure.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the Loveviews site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.